and then they kick you out. um, so the other thing about choosing midwives and a birth center is that you don't spend the night um, after you give birth. You, particularly if everything's looking good, you know, they monitor your vitals every like 30 minutes for like 2 hours or whatever it is, you and baby. And once you deliver, once you deliver that baby, I think you get for sure 4 hours to just kind of get yourself together, get baby together, get hubby together. um, and then they kick you out. So for me in particular, I gave birth on a Monday morning, and of course you're really tired after that, so they made me eat because that was really important. I have been laboring for what felt like forever. So I ate. You know, they make sure that you bring snacks, they make sure you bring a meal for after you deliver, all of that. So we had that. After we ate, me and the baby went to sleep. We took us a good old nap. I think I might have like did our first latch and fed her, and then after that we went to sleep. Probably, I want to say for like 2 hours. They were coming in bothering like checking, make sure we were okay. And yeah, so I think after I woke up, then they helped me like go to the bathroom for the first time, and they took baby away to do whatever the things were we signed on the paper. um, and then they kind of left us alone for a little bit, me and hubby, to talk and just take in our new family addition. And they were getting paperwork together as far as her social security number and birth certificate and all of that stuff. And then they sent us home. Now I think, you know, it was definitely more than 4 hours because I gave birth at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't get home till around 5. So it was that whole time, but we did not spend the night there. We didn't have to stay for days on end. And we knew that that was the procedure beforehand. Of course, they let us know so that we could have our home prepared for our return. And yeah, it was well, because we didn't like go to sleep because our baby cried her head out the first night we brought her home. It was nice to be able to deal with that in our own comfortable environment, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed our birth center, and the midwives that we were able to interact with were amazing. I think that my experience at the birth center made me feel more comfortable, and that I would consider more heavily next time delivering at home and doing a home birth, and having a doula and a certified nurse midwife for those emergency situations should one arise. I think that I will be interested in that. That way, you know, whatever we want could really happen in our own house. So yeah, I think that would be an interesting experience, and very not, you know, I won't say not Black, but it's not something that you see a lot of Black women choosing. And, you know, I can understand why that might not be the choice. Sometimes there's not a lot of support where stuff like that is concerned. And so, you know, you make other choices because you don't feel supported. I get that. But for the most part, my family and friends were very supportive of my choice. My husband, though I had to explain to him, you know, why I wanted to make this choice, he, you know, understood and kind of let me do my own thing in terms of choosing the birth center and midwives. He was definitely a little skeptical. And the only pushback that I got was from my mother-in-law. She was the only one who was kind of like, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? You sure you can handle all of the pain of labor. And, you know, of course, you don't know if you can handle it until you actually handle it. But I felt prepared, I felt good, and nobody else gave me a really hard time about it. So I felt pretty good, and I think she's fine with it. Our baby's here, she's healthy, she's safe, she's growing like a weed, and so I feel really good about our decision. So how much does a birth center, midwives, cost, right? I don't know about just midwives, just having a midwife on your own, because you can, I think, bring a midwife or a doula or something like that to the hospital, but having an actual standalone birth center practice operated by midwives, that was, in the grand scheme of things, it was not very expensive. It wouldn't have been very expensive in terms of out-of-pocket costs. So we really had to do a deep dive into what my insurance would cover as far as my new job, which had amazing benefits. Okay. So that is kind of a story, because in the beginning, you know, when you first go in, you have to like pay a deposit to say, yes, this is where I want to do my care. And then you have a sit down meeting with a financial person and go over the payment plan, essentially, for paying, what insurance will cover, and all of that. And that way you make payments every time you come in for an appointment. However, we did the initial stuff, we paid our deposit, but we never were able to sit down and have the talk with the financial person, because everybody's mind was kind of racing with the pandemic. So we get much closer to time to give birth, and, you know, we find out that we're supposed to pay all this money within a couple of weeks. And, you know, I was very much, when I was pregnant, of the mind, like, the Lord's gonna take care of this. Like, he would not put this on me right now if he was not going to handle it, because I cannot handle this right now. And we weren't like rolling in dough, so it definitely wasn't this thing of like, oh yeah, okay, sure, we can take care of it, you know. And it wasn't something where we could be like, bill us. So that was a little bit of an intense situation. But the financial lady knew, you know, I kind of talked to her about what our financial situation was in terms of getting that paid. And number one, she was going to give us some extra time to get it paid because of the unique circumstances of what was going on and what had happened, and why, you know, in terms of why we didn't have that initial conversation and sign all the papers for the payment plan, all of that. So that was really nice that she was gonna kind of work with us. And then she ended up calling me shortly after our conversation and telling me that there's this other option that could possibly fully cover those costs that we were going to have to pay. And I did the application for what she was talking about. Turns out they covered everything. Hallelujah. So that was amazing. It was amazing to know that that was going to be paid and not have to worry about that going into labor and delivery. So the Lord be working. But anyways, that was my experience with midwives and with a birth center. And before I gave birth, I did a lot of YouTube university research, just seeing what other people's experiences were like in the birth center, and, you know, what I could expect, and just the difference between a birth center versus home or versus the hospital. I knew that at the time home birth wasn't an option for us, so it was really between a birth center and the hospital. And I am so happy with, like I said, the birth center. So hopefully the information of my experience helps someone else to pick between a birth center or hospital, whichever you prefer. You know, different strokes for different folks. So I support all healthy labor and delivery wherever that may happen. But yeah, I just hope this information helps someone. And let me know down in the comments how your experience with your choice of birthing location went. If your experience at a birth center was very different than mine, tell me why. I am very interested in that. And if you loved your experience at a hospital with a traditional OB, tell me that too. I love to hear from you guys, and I will see you in my next video.